Greetings from Bruin, Pennsylvania. We're going to continue in our weekly devotions, and today we're going to look at several of the commandments. We're going to actually look at commandments number 6 through commandments number 9, as recorded out of the 10 commandments. As we continue looking at these commandments, like last week I told you, we've transitioned from the love for God to the love for your neighbor. Loving your neighbor as yourself. But you may be stopping and asking yourself, who exactly is your neighbor? Now, this is a common question that was asked even during New Testament times. And Jesus was asked this question by an expert of the law who questioned it. And Jesus answered with a response to that of the parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, the story of the Good Samaritan is a Jew that is jumped by robbers and is left on the roadside. There are several individuals, several Jewish leaders that walked past him walking and not looking in direct contact with him. And the Samaritan, the enemy of the Jews, was the one who stopped to give him help. But as it says here in Luke chapter 10, it says, "But as a Samaritan, as he traveled, he came where the man was, and he saw him. He took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. He said, 'Look after him.' He said, 'And when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." What does it mean to have mercy on another? Well, I believe that's what commandments number 6 through commandments number 9 deal with in that component of love. So let's take a moment just to break down these commandments to see what the physical meaning of them is, and as well what the spiritual meaning is, so that we may be able to apply these in our own lives. Commandment number 6 simply states this phrase, "Thou shalt not kill." Now, the word kill means to cause death of a person, an animal, or any other living thing. Now, wait a minute, Frank, you may be asking yourselves. You mean I can't hunt and I can't fish? No, that's not what I mean by this statement. You see, when God gave humanity dominion over the animals, it was in order to care for, to tend to, and use those animals to their fullest potential in a just manner. At the time that God gave mankind dominion over the animals, humans did not eat meat. In Genesis 1:29, eating meat did not begin until after the flood. As it says in Genesis 9:1-3, "And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, 'Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast on the earth, and upon every bird of the heavens, and upon everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything.'" And it was at that time that God allowed animals to start fearing humans. However, although God changed the way we interact with animals, and that they are now meat, we still bear a responsibility to treat animals humanely. Human rule over animals does not mean we have the right to mistreat or misuse those animals. However, killing is not just by physical, but also by spiritual. In Jesus' own words, in Matthew chapter 5, verses 21-26, listen to what Jesus says on the topic of murder. He says, "You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'You shall not murder. And anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Anyone who says to a brother or sister, 'Raka,' is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, 'You fool,' will be in danger of the fire of hell." Jesus carefully explained that the heart of this commandment. He showed that it also prohibits us from hating someone else, because we can wish someone dead in our hearts, yet never have the nerve to commit the deed. Someone may not kill from a lack of courage or initiative, yet his or her heart is filled with hatred. Is there anyone that you hate? Is there anyone where you've expressed those words, "I hate you"? So what do? How do we fix this? Jesus goes on in Matthew chapter 5, verse number 23, and he says, "Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until every penny has been paid in full. Friends, look at your life and see, are there people in my life that I hate? Are there people in my life that I just don't like? And pray that God would show you a way to love them the way he does. Then we move on to the next commandment. Thou shalt not commit adultery. What is adultery? Adultery is a voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and a person who is not his or her spouse. It clearly condemns adultery all throughout Scripture. In Galatians 5:19, it says, Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanliness. The act is condemned, but not only the act itself. In Jesus' own words, here we go once again, as Jesus expounds upon this commandment in Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 and 28, he says, You have heard that it was said, You shall not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. More than the act itself, Jesus carefully explained the heart of this commandment. It prohibits us from looking at a woman to lust for her, where we commit adultery in our heart or our minds. And ladies, this doesn't free you from it as well. It's the same way as if a woman looks lustfully at a man. Maybe we don't have the courage or the opportunity to act upon it. We aren't innocent just because we don't have the opportunity to sin the way we really want to. As to the word adultery, adulterium, it has probably been derived from the words ad alteris torum, to another's bed. For it is going to the bed of another man or another woman that constitutes the act of the crime. So what do? Jesus goes on to say, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. Now, friends, let's not get mistaken here for a moment. Jesus Christ is not talking about self-mutilation. But what he is talking about is removing ourselves from the temptation that is leading us and causing us to sin. James 4:7b puts it this way, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Micah 6:8 says, He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee? But to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. If there are things that are leading you down a path that is leading into lustful thoughts and lustful ideas, get rid of it. Delete it. Throw it away. Remove yourself from it. Ask God to clear your mind, your eyes, and your heart so that you may live the life that he is calling you to live. The next one he says in the commandments in verse number 15 is thou shalt not steal. Steal means to take another person's property without permission or legal right and without intending to return it. This command is another important foundation for human society. Personal property. God has clearly entrusted certain possessions to certain individuals, and other people or states are not permitted to take that property without due process or law. We can also steal from God. Of course, this demands we honor God with our financial resources, so we are not guilty of robbing him. Malachi 3, verses 8 through 10 says, will a mere mortal rob God? Yet you rob me. But you ask, how are we robbing you? In tithes and offerings is what he says. Have you been giving God your tithe? If not, you're stealing from him. But we can also rob God by refusing to give him ourselves for obedience in his service, because he bought us and owns us. Knowing that you are not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold, but with the precious blood of Christ. You no longer belong to yourself when you make Jesus Lord of your life. So what do we need to do? Steal no more. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 28 puts it this way. Let him who stole, steal no longer, but rather let him labor, working with his hands what is good, that he may have something to give to him who is in need. And the last of these commandments, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. The primary sense of this command has to do with the legal process. Yet it is common to speak in an informal court where what we say is taken seriously and the truth or error matters for us and for others. You see, in this commandment, it's done through slander, tale-bearing, creating false impressions, silence, questioning the motives behind someone's actions, or even by flattery. Slander is a lie invented and spread with intent to harm. Tale-bearing is repeating a report about a person without careful investigation. Many, many times I've known what it is to suffer with that. To repeat a story which brings discredit and dishonor to another person without making sure of the facts. That's breaking this commandment. How many people, especially Christian people, revel in this and delight in working havoc by telling tales about others? To excuse the action by saying they believe the report to be true or that there was no intention to malign is no justification. Inappropriate silence may also break this command. When someone utters a falsity about another and a third person is present who knows the statement to be untrue but does not, for reasons of being disliked or being disliked, remains quiet, that person is guilty of breaking the law. The New Testament puts it simply: do not lie to one another, since you have put off the old man with his deeds, as it says in Colossians 3:9. Lying and false representation belong to the old man, not to the new life we have in Jesus Christ. So friends, let's love our neighbors. And let's make sure that we remove everything that goes against it, whether it be killing, adultery, stealing, and bearing false testimony. Until next time, God be with you.